thing to tell you, and that is a little bit later on in this programme, we're going to have an exclusive interview with a guy called Osman Waheed. He's a close friend of Shaddada Dawood, who died in the Titan sub in that horrendous accident and or incident, really, in terms of the catastrophic implosion. That's coming up a little bit later in the programme. You're really going to really hear that, and we're going to paint a picture of one of the people one of the 5 men who very sadly died in that. This is an astonishing story. It's gripped the world in terms of what has happened or not happened, actually, over the past few days, because we were told, of course, that there may have been some hope, but then it's actually become clear that there wasn't. Let's listen to Rear Admiral John Maher announcing that the 5 passengers on board the vessel had sadly died.
This morning, an ROV, or remote operated vehicle, from the vessel Horizon Arctic discovered the tail cone of the Titan submersible approximately 1,600 feet from the bow of the Titanic on the seafloor. The ROV subsequently found additional debris. In consultation with experts from within the Unified Command, the debris is consistent with the catastrophic loss of the pressure chamber. Upon this determination, we immediately notified the families. On behalf of the United States Coast Guard and the entire Unified Command, I offer my deepest condolences to the families.
Well, that was Rear Admiral John Maher announcing the deaths of those 5 people on board the Titan. Let's talk to Richard Fear. He's a former Royal Navy nuclear submariner. Richard, you're very welcome to TalkTV this afternoon. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, good afternoon, Peter. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks. I have a big question about this, and maybe this is just my total naivety here. You know this sort of stuff inside out. The US Navy apparently now knew on Sunday night that there were noises, there was something picked up that was consistent with this catastrophic implosion, consistent with these people very sadly dying basically instantly. Why was the hope there for the few days that they could actually be alive, that this oxygen was perhaps available, this international rescue effort, many countries getting involved, sending personnel, sending equipment and so on? What would the reasons be for us just not being told what turned out to be probably the facts?
Yeah, of course, it's entirely credible that the US Navy, with their sensitive listening equipment, knew that there was some event happened around the time that the Titan was lost. But I think they couldn't have been certain that it was the Titan. There must have been some uncertainty. There's all sorts of noises in the ocean, earthquakes and other aquatic noises. And I think they, from what I've heard, they informed the incident commander, the US Coast Guard, very soon when they thought this may have happened. But I guess they couldn't be certain. So you still have to go through, the machinations of an international rescue operation. Because people are concerned, the families are concerned. You can't just say, oh, the Titan imploded and that's the end of it, let's give up. So I think they had to go through the motions. The US Coast Guard would not have wanted to make that information public at that time. Maybe it was shared with the families, we don't know. So I think, the US Coast Guard had to do their search and rescue operation, but they would have had that key piece of information that they may have known all along. And many of our, experts in the field suspected this was the case from the time that the submersible was missing.
Did you suspect that it was the case when the news came out yesterday that this was, this catastrophic implosion had happened? Was there any, I'm sure there was sadness and there was real concern, as there has been right around the world. You're a human being with compassion, Richard, but at the same time, was there any shock from you really, or was it just what you thought was probably going to be the case?
Peter, honestly, no. I thought this was the likely outcome. Yeah. Of course, we wanted to find the Titan, the crew and the explorers safely. But this was, in terms of the sort of least worst option, was that it was instant, it was instantaneous, They probably didn't know anything that was happening. I think the worst case would have been to have found the submersible stuck on the bottom and then been unable to raise it quickly enough to save them. That would have been worse. So we didn't want this news, but I have to say it wasn't unexpected to me and to many people in the industry. Now, the follow-on actions are to raise whatever is left of the Titan, to do a technical investigation in terms of what went wrong. We know it's quite a unique design. It consisted of a carbon fibre cylinder, 5 inches thick.
Sorry to interrupt you, Richard, but you talk about the unique design there. I wonder if you're being diplomatic, perhaps, because you're a former Royal Navy nuclear submariner. You have worked with the best technology and the best personnel in the world, with the finest navy in the world, which is the UK Navy. Someone going down in a carbon fibre vessel, that is unique, but was it wise?
Well, it clearly has survived a number of visits down to the Titanic. So we know initially that the design, the build was strong, but it was fairly unique. So you've got this carbon fibre cylinder. It's 5 inches thick, but at the ends of the cylinder, you've got 2 titanium domes. Now, we know titanium is a very strong, lightweight metal. It's been used in submarine construction before. But, of course, you can't just weld carbon fibre, it's a type of fiberglass, onto titanium. There would have been some sort of interface, some sort of bonding. And over time, of course, you're taking the vessel from the surface down to the Titanic depth, which is an incredible pressure. And then you'll bring it back up and down. So you're pressure cycling that vessel. So any small weakness in the construction of the carbon fibre or the window, the acrylic window they had to see through to see the Titanic, any minor flaws in that design would have been stress tested by operating the submersible. And it's quite possible there was a little failure there. They didn't know about it, and it's just had that catastrophic impact.
Yeah, Richard, thank you so much. You've really illuminated the issue for me. I want to thank you as well for your service to our country. I just think we need to recognise the kind of amazing work that the Royal Navy does, and especially nuclear submariners. It's a profession. It's a calling, really, that is something that we just don't acknowledge enough. Sometimes very long, boring work in many respects, keeping us safe in that nuclear deterrent. That was Richard Fear there, former Royal Navy nuclear submariner. We're going to talk about whether Brexit was worth it, whether you think that 7 years on, we've taken back control of our money, laws and borders. What do you think? 0344 499 1000. That's coming up in just a few minutes. You can text me at 7222. You can tweet me at TalkTV. I'm here until 4 o'clock. It's a pleasure to have your company here on TalkTV.